What's up, everyone? It's Brian at The Inevitable You. I hope you're having an awesome day out there. In this episode, we're talking about the law of attraction. How does it work? What is it? How do you use it effectively to create the outcomes that you want in life? And so having a great understanding of this concept really puts things into perspective as far as how you're creating results, both wanted and unwanted. And we're going to give you some practical tools that's going to allow you to create more of the outcomes that you want and less of the outcomes that you don't want. So I hope you enjoy the content. As always, you can go to our website, sign up for our 30-day free trial of our Live Life by Design membership. This is our resource for you to upgrade your mental software, interact with our community, get on our Tuesday night Q&A calls for even more support. This is what this content comes out of, is those Tuesday night calls, and we always have amazing discussions, go even deeper on these concepts. And again, your resource to get even more support through the online courses, the self-paced resources that we have available for you. So theinevitableyou.com, you can go there and again, sign up for your 30-day free trials. There's no risk for you to give this a shot. So again, hope you're doing great. And we'll be back next week with more great content. Take care. The law of attraction. One of my favorite topics to talk about. A very crucial concept to know and understand because we reference it a lot here in our content and our programs. It's a very fun concept to explore and understand as far as how you're creating outcomes, how you're creating reality. You know, when we talk about reality creation, and, that may seem a little bit more on the metaphysical or, esoteric side of things. But there is really a science to this as well. So I like talking about it from both perspectives. More from the spiritual side, also from a more practical side, and how the law of attraction really fits in with, the NLP tools that we cover, the more, practical goal setting tools. These things really make a difference when you really look at the world in a different lens as far as how you're attracting things, but really how you're creating your life. This is a really, really fun one to talk about. So first things first, I always love to do a calibration. This actually you'll find in the Model of the World document that you first receive coming into the Inevitable You program. It's the document we use to capture the existing operating system, the mental software that's running, right? The programs and patterns. And at the bottom of the exercise, you find these calibration questions. And it's always great to know, first coming in where you stand with something. Some of the other questions are, all results begin with a thought, and emotions catalyze the power of a thought. And how magical, powerful, and extraordinary are you? And so on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being absolutely 100%, no exceptions, this is a law. 1 being no, don't buy it, absolutely not true, never works. On a scale of 1 to 10, and you can do this on your own, you just write it down, where do you sit with the law of attraction? And by law of attraction, you'll see here, this is also included in the Model of the World calibrations question, but as defined by the movie The Secret, because The Secret was such a popular film, still is, it's a great film. It's always fun to go back and watch it. I've seen it probably a dozen times. It really is a great introduction into the law of attraction, and there's also some things that are not so good about it or wrong, and there's some very challenging things about the film that people have a problem with. And when they give examples of, a kid visualizing a red bicycle, creating the vision board, and or someone visualizing their red Corvette, and then one day it magically appears in their garage or on the front door. People have a hard time with that, because it's like, what? So I'm just supposed to, sit here and think about the things that I want and it just happens? Well, no, not exactly. It's a little more complex, some more sophistication here. It goes deeper than that, which we're going to talk about here in a second. But as defined by the movie The Secret, or Esther Hicks is another popular author, speaker that I've referenced before, any other sources, there's tons of people out there talking about the law of attraction, but in essence, it's what you think about and what you focus on is what you get. So what you think about and what you focus on is what you get on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being absolutely 100% all the time, no exceptions. Where do you sit? Now, ponder what it really means to be a 9.9 out of 10 versus a 7 or an 8. Because the first point here is, do you believe in laws? Do you believe that there are laws to the system, the universe, this world that we're living in? Laws of reality. For instance, the law of gravity, even though we don't really understand how it works or why it works, or we can't even explain gravity, but we know it's there. We know that people don't occasionally float off the planet. So it's a law. The law of gravity is always the case, right? There's no exceptions to it, unless you are in orbit and not on this planet. But do you believe that the law of attraction is a law? And if you mismatch this content, if you mismatch to the law of attraction, meaning you're just seeing all the things that you don't like about it, or that the things that are wrong with it, or things that don't make it a 10 for you, if you can find the one thing that is wrong with this, then you'll totally dismiss it. It is not a law, it's more of a principle. That's why a 9.9 out of 10 versus a 7 or an 8 is very important to understand. It's a very big difference, because if you think about this, I'll give you a metaphor. This is our antibiotic tool. When you go to the doctor and you have a bacterial infection, they give you antibiotics. What's their instructions? What's the doctor's instructions to you? If he says, here's 10 days of antibiotics, what's the most important thing you have to do? Anyone?
You have to take them all 10 days. That's it.
Yes, take all 10 days. Why is that so important?
Because then if you don't, you create a resistant strain to that antibiotic, and it's no longer effective.
Correct. Yeah. If you only take, theoretically, 9.9 days worth, that, 1%, let's say you take 9.99 days of antibiotics, and there's, that 0.1% of bacteria that withstood all 9.99 days onslaught of antibiotics. Yeah, that's the most resilient, the strongest strains of bacteria that are left. So if you think about this in terms of neural programming, so when we talk about old you versus new you, or old software versus new software, if there's that 1% left, that one strain, it's hanging on for dear life, doesn't want to believe in the law of attraction, or doesn't want to believe in your innate power and potentiality, unlimited potential, then when the going gets tough and you're in the 10 moment, in the 10 being the 10% of life, when it's hard, it's tough, the world's being mean, yeah, that old software is going to rear its ugly head. And man, it'll take you out. It'll be, devastating. It'll be very challenging to deal with if there's still that 1% of metaphorical, bacteria left. So back to the law of attraction. If you believe that law of attraction, it's a 9.9, but yeah, I believe it for 99% of the time, but that 1%, now you're totally discrediting the law. You're totally discrediting your power and your use of the law. You will not believe in that most challenging time that the law of attraction is still at work. So it is more detrimental, it is more challenging for you to believe this at a 9.9 versus a 7 or an 8. Now, again, this being a law, this being if you're mismatching or you're just finding that one thing that's wrong so you can discredit all of it, it does not serve you. So you must be a matcher and look for the things, match to the things that you like, that creates value for you, that's going to empower you, that's going to serve you. And what we know is, just like all Inevitable You content and tools, and the basis of NLP even, neuro-linguistic programming, when you study the most successful people on the planet, it's a consensus. They believe, they act in accordance with this law. So, there are plenty of examples, plenty of picture quotes and memes out there, floating around, and what the law of attraction is, whether it's to bring something or anything into your life, imagine that it's already there. Power of beliefs work either in either direction to become life affirming or life denying. So again, in what you think about and what you focus on is what you get. It works both ways. It's not just about the desirable outcomes, and that when you don't get the desirable outcomes, the law of attraction isn't working, because law of attraction works for things that you don't want to. This is the difference between asking and unasking. When we're asking for something, and I'm going to jump over to the formula here. This is one of the top tools in the system. This is a great and more scientific, logical way to think about this. When we apply this equation, that our reality is simply the sum of the product of an ask, that's the lowercase a, and that's a plus or a minus. So you're either asking for something that you want or asking for something you don't want, which we call an unask. You're unasking for the things that you're asking for. And multiplied by the emotional intensity on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being off the charts, can't get any higher. The formula, here's the equation. You got your ask as represented by the A, plus or minus, multiplied by the emotional intensity on a scale of 1 to 10, and multiplied by the time that you spend doing it. So when we look at asking versus unasking, the law of attraction is working both ways. It's responding to your request to the system. And I'm going to come back to the formula here. But again, many different ways that this is talked about and presented. And here's the real, 3 steps that are involved. 1, that should say ask. You ask. You're asking for something, right? You believe. Now this is a little more of the trickier arena. How do you believe in something that you maybe don't have, or believe in something that's new, or, believe in an outcome that you've been working maybe many years at and still hasn't manifested? How do you believe in something that's not real yet? Well, that's the bulk of our work here at The Inevitable You, is how do you create the software of the person that's going to create the outcome? How do you believe? And in other content chunks, you put the emotion in your body that you would have when the belief is true. So you put the excitement, you put the joy, you put the love. You know how to do that. And if you say, I don't know how to put emotions in my body, well, most of us are doing it in reverse already. You put anxiety and fear in your body all day long for crap that rarely ever happens. So it's a learned helplessness. It's a habitual, programmed thing. You can program something different. You can habitually put a new song on the radio. So we all know how to do this. This is in our DNA. You tap into your emotional matrix, your emotional abilities, which we all have. And we have a whole bucket of tools for that as well. But you ask, you believe, and then here's one of the enhancements that we talk about to The Secret. In The Secret, they say receive, but actually Jack Canfield, one of the speakers in the movie, writer of Chicken Soup for the Soul, he's like, I don't really buy that. I like to think of it as inspired action. You take inspired action. So you can't just sit on your couch and meditate and visualize and and then go out in the world and do nothing. You take action on the opportunities that present themselves. Jack Canfield has a great story about how he started Chicken Soup for the Soul, where he's in the shower and he's like, I'd love to make $100,000 this year, and how do I do that? And so he's like, I could sell 100,000 books at $1. So he's in line at the grocery store the next day. He sees the National Enquirer, 100,000 subscribers. It's like, that's interesting. Later that week, at a party, having a conversation with a woman, they hit it off. He asks what she does. Oh, I'm a reporter for National Enquirer. Bing, 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 bing. Like, that's when, oh, wow, that's where those things start to reveal themselves, and the universe is responding to your request, to your belief. And you're opening your eyes, you're activating your reticular activation system. You're seeing things differently. You're seeing opportunities. We talk about this as the don't spill the milk tool. You're thinking of ways to pour carefully versus all the ways that you can spill milk. So now you have to think of ways to not spill milk, or think of ways that happens to avoid doing it. So you're actually enhancing the probability that's going to happen. So you're changing the focus. So it's not all that mystical when you think about it. You make a different request. You write the software, you believe, you put the emotion in, and you capitalize on the opportunities that reveal themselves. That's really it. That's the law of attraction process in a nutshell. Now, where does it break down? That's another story. That's another examination point. Where does old software step in and not believe, or unask? That's why keeping a great journal. Where do you bounce back between old and new software? That's what could be, most of the time, is holding up the attraction from actually manifesting. So, those are the 3 steps. Now, last really big point here. One of the other challenges is, well, if I believe in the law of attraction at a 10, well, that means, what about Hurricane Katrina? Or what about that terrible thing that happened to me? Did I attract that into my life? If I say it's a 10, does that mean that that I'm responsible for all the, the bad things that happened in my life? Well, no, that's not really what it's saying. Now, we can have an interesting, deep philosophical discussion about that. That's in some people's belief systems, that everything that's happened to them is a result of their manifestations, even going back to before they were incarnated in this lifetime, and it's part of their spiritual process. But if that's not in your belief system, and that's a real challenge for you, I want you to ponder this other really crucial aspect of the law of attraction, because it's not about you or people in Louisiana attracted Hurricane Katrina that day, or that anyone else attracted some heinous thing into their life, because it's not about the storm. It's never about the storm. The storm does not create reality. It's always the aftermath of the storm. It's what happens, how you respond, the act after the act. Because that's really what reality creation is. Remember, software is always interpreting data. Software is what's creating reality. Same data points, different software will draw different conclusions. So when you think about, how do I manifest happiness, or how do I manifest different outcomes? Well, it starts with, this process of upgrading, redesigning the mental software, where you look at a data point, you look at a storm of your life, and instead of, this was terrible, this is the worst thing that ever happened, I'm broken as a result, law of attraction doesn't work for me. Well, now this becomes very empowering when you say, oh my God, I'm in control of my reality, no matter what the data point is, because I can look at, for instance, Hurricane Katrina. Some people, they were victims. Some people died. Some people survived. They're okay. They made it through. Maybe a little worse off, maybe a little better off, but they survived. And on the upper end of the bell curve, there's the champions, that looked at this and said, this is a fresh start. This is, a blessing in disguise. Maybe it was an insurance check. Maybe it was an opportunity to move somewhere else. But, there's so many different scenarios you can go through, but this is the bell curve of life. And it's all about, again, the software that's running, the stories that are being told about the data points. And, another example, think about fires. We try so hard to prevent forest fires, right? And, here in Colorado, some fires get a little bit too out of control in California, but what we know is, after a fire, there's growth. It's a restart. It's a refresh. So, the law of, in order to build something, build a house, well, yeah, you gotta destroy. First, you have to kill a tree. So it's this yin-yang of life. It's this half full, half empty. You can't have one without the other. And it's, who are you when you look at the glass? Is it you look at the circumstances of life and, I can't, I never, the world is, people suck, life isn't fair. Or you look at life and you see the half full side, you see what strengths, what lessons, what growth, how do I, take everything I got from this, how am I, a better person, how did I grow? And you are empowered by that. And that's what's going to fuel different outcomes. That's what's going to, get you to these, whatever you're wanting to attract, whatever you're wanting to manifest. It starts with the new software load. And, back to the formula, it starts with your request. Are you asking or unasking? How much time are you spending? And what emotional intensity are you there? So as you go through your day and as you journal and as you ponder these things, and why don't I have what I say I want? And well, you have tools here. You have the formula. You have your journal. Go back, look at what is your request and what's your emotional intensity. And so this is really the beginning. These are the first few crucial tools to know and understand for truly applying the law of attraction effectively for you, and make sure that it's working in your favor and not, working against you based on your requests to the system.